Hey friends, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making my quick dinner rolls. They are so delicious, super easy to make. Let's get started. First, we're going to warm up some milk. I warmed my milk to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is going to help activate our yeast. I'm using 1 cup measurement, but I highly recommend using a scale for 240 mLs. And I'm just measuring that out because I'm going to be making 2 different types. I'm using all-purpose for one, and then I'm also going to be using bread flour for one. What I'm doing today is actually testing it out with the Kirkland organic all-purpose flour and seeing how it goes, and it really went well. I'm using 1/4 cup of granulated sugar in each, which is 50 grams, and then we're also going to be using some active dry yeast for this. We're using 2 tablespoons total in each bowl. Again, I'm just doubling this in 2 different bowls, so you'll see me measuring it in the green bowl for the most part. Then we're going to whisk that lightly just to make sure all of the yeast is nice and moistened, and we want to let it bloom and it'll get nice and foamy, as you can see here. Then we're going to add 1 large egg. I like to use room temperature eggs. I let it sit out for like 15-ish minutes, and then we're going to go in with some butter. I'm using 1 whole stick. This is for both of them, so what I'm going to be doing is putting 4 tablespoons in each, so each will get a half a stick of butter. Then we're going to go ahead and save that wrapper. That's going to be great to grease our pan. Then we're going to go in with a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, or a little bit under. We're using salted butter, so we don't want them to be too salted. If you didn't use salted butter, you may need to up the salt. Then we're going to go in with about 1 cup of flour, and that's just going to be 120 grams of flour. So 1 cup is 120 grams. Now, my butter wasn't as soft as I would have liked. It would usually just mush into this. This is my first time using Costco butter, and it's good butter, but I much prefer their grass-fed, which I cannot find. So if you guys know what's going on with the grass-fed butter at Costco, let me know. We're so new to butter that I haven't worked with it, and I don't know if I love Costco's regular blue container butter. So I'm going to probably switch out and get something new. But this, it just didn't soften as quickly as I would have liked. But it did incorporate beautifully, so I'm not too worried. Now we're going to put in the remainder of our flour. We're going to go in with about 3.5 to almost 3 3/4 cup of flour. You can go up to 4 cups. It's going to really depend on the stickiness of your dough. So if it's raining out, it may need more or less depending on the weather too. So just keep an eye on it, and you'll see how I'm mixing it and just really looking at it. If it's too sticky, you're going to need more flour, but you don't want to over flour. So add it as needed. I always say go in with a tablespoon more if needed. So if you add 1 tablespoon, you see it's still a little too sticky, add another tablespoon, and so on. Now my Danish whisk has done its job. It's time for me to do mine. I'm going to get in there with my hands, but you could also use a stand mixer if needed. I would use the KitchenAid at no more than speed 2 for 2 minutes, or you can get in there with your hands and knead it for about 2 to 4 minutes. The dough is done when you feel it is nice and soft and it has come together. Now we're going to lightly oil our bowl as well as our dough, and you can use a new bowl if you prefer, but I like less dishes. I'm going to cover these for about 15 minutes, and I'm going to also preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then place them right on the counter next to my oven, not too close that it gets super hot, but just so it is warm and helps them rise. Again, we're doing a quick rise, so I really want to make sure that we can get them nice and risen, because we're not doing a long rise here. Usually I do an hour for my regular rolls, but these are only going to rise for about 15 minutes. And we want to make sure there's no air holes because we don't want our dough to dry out. Then I'm going to take some butter and grease my pan. Remember, we saved that wrapper from our butter, so here's a piece of paper towel holding a little pat of butter. It doesn't work so well. What I like to do is take that greased wrapper and just take it all around my baking sheet or my baking pans or my casserole dishes, and then just rub it right in, and it just glides so nicely, and it really greases those pans beautifully. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my ceramic baking dish. I needed to use 2 since we did double the recipe. And then I just take that pat of butter that was in the paper towel. And again, I'm going to take that butter wrapper and just get in every nook and cranny, and then make sure it's all ready to go when I need to roll my rolls out. Now that the rolls are risen, I'm going to go ahead and measure them out. You can be super precise and measure each ball if you'd like, but what I'm doing is just dividing these in half. So I'm going to put half in my USA pan and then half in my ceramic casserole dish. Why I'm doing this is because I wanted to see if there was a difference between the all-purpose and the bread flour. And the only way to do that is just to make sure I cooked it in the same kind of baking vessel. So if I did it in this one and put the bread flour in this one, all of that, and then all-purpose in the other one, I wouldn't have a good, accurate way to say, hey, they are different, or hey, they are similar. They were really similar. I will say with bread flour, you're going to notice a tiny marginal difference. It's like a little bit softer. Very, very, very marginal difference though. If you want to see a big difference, it's going to be in like bagel doughs and things like that. So now what I'm doing is just pinching off equal sizes and rolling it in my palm, as you can see, and using my other hand to cup around it and make sure I form a smooth ball on top. I'm not too worried about the bottom being smooth, but the top I am. So then I'm going to take that saran wrap that we had over the bowls and reuse it and place it right over top of my dishes and make sure that it can rise again. We're going to let this rise again next to the oven, and we're going to do this for about 20 minutes. So in total, we have a 35-minute rise time between the two. Then once it's risen, I'm going to take them and bake them for about 15 to 18 minutes. And then once they're out of the oven and hot, I like to take a stick of butter. Guys, like I said, this is a quick and easy recipe. You could absolutely melt some butter in a pan, take your basting brush and just brush it over. But I just took a stick of butter out of the fridge that I like to put on hot rolls like this. And this is my roll butter. So I'm just rolling my butter onto my rolls, and it works. It works beautifully. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. But this is just what works for me, quick and easy. And it really gives them that nice glossy shine. Now, if you didn't want your rolls to be super soft on top, you can absolutely skip this. But when you do put that butter on them, it does make them nice and soft on top. And if it's salted butter, which I highly recommend, it'll make them a little bit salty on top, and it's just so delicious. They are piping hot and so fluffy. As you can see, this is one that is the bread flour, and to be honest, you wouldn't even know if I showed you all-purpose or bread flour side by side. If you want to see that comparison, though, you can go to CourtneySweets.com. The link is in the description, as well as the recipe. And as always, I really hope you guys give this a try. This batch right here is going in the freezer. I want to thank you so much for watching. Take care and God bless you. Bye, friends.